Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. I have Warren with me again tonight. How you doing, Warren?
Pretty good. Mock draft
Nice.
round 2.
So tonight we're going to continue our educational series on the mock drafting and ADP, as well as different draft strategies. So as we've been saying, things are going to change. We're going to just try to track ADP and stuff. So without further ado, let's go right to it. So we're going to be drafting on Sleeper as always. It is going to be a 12-team full PPR. Rosters we're drafting tonight are 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers this time, 1 tight end, and a flex. So I am drafting from the 1 slot, and Warren is drafting from the 3 slot. So we're going to see how things go. I might try something a little bit different tonight, just to kind of see how it tracks and what kind of players fall to me. Because I've done a couple mock drafts later in the draft, and I do seem to like the way my teams turn out. So I'm curious to see where players fall at the front of the draft. I know some people hate drafting on the turn. I don't mind it. It's just you gotta think differently because you have so many extra picks in between yours. You have to kind of make some decisions. So there might be more reaching, but happens the same on the other end. So is there a spot? I know I asked Joe this the other day, so I want to get your thoughts. Is there a specific spot in the draft that you prefer to draft from? If you had to pick one slot, what is that slot?
I'd probably say if we're talking like 12 teams, I'd say like the 9 or 10 spot. I think is like either that or like the reverse end, kind of like the 3-4.
Okay,
I like those kind of spots. I don't like being right in the middle or right at the beginning or at the end, just because I don't necessarily like where players fall at those positions. But I'd say those are probably my 2 go-tos.
Okay. Yeah, no, some people always hate drafting at the turn, and I kind of like the back end of the turn. I tend to like my team a little bit more because I do have to reach still, but it's kind of players I prefer to reach on in most cases. So, all right, let's dive right into it here. Let's start this draft up in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so I'm up here on the clock, and it's an easy pick. I'm going to go with Christian McCaffrey. There's no real analysis. He's the best running back in football, and I would like him on my team. So Christian McCaffrey off at the 101.
Yeah, I feel like he should be the 1 pick in every league, right? Like, I don't see.
I know last year it was different, but
yeah,
we'll see. Right. I agree with that. So Tyreek Hill went off the board at the 102, and you're up here on the clock. Are you going where I think you're going?
Where do you think I'm going?
I think you're going to go with Mr. CD Lamb, Mr. Fantastic from last year.
That is exactly where I'm going. I think he's going to be a target machine this year.
Oh, yeah, definitely. 100%. I mean, that offense didn't really change outside of the running backs are different, and it's really just one, and I think that's going to help him even more. But following that pick, we had Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Puka Nacua, who we found out Rich hates a lot. A little tease. We're working on our rankings. I'll let you know when we do a ranking show where he slots in. But AJ Brown, Devontae Adams rounds out round 1. Garrett Wilson is the 201, followed by Jonathan Taylor, Marvin Harrison Jr., Saquon Barkley, Chris Olave, Drake London, Travis Etienne, Kyron Williams, Sam Laporta is the first tight end off the board. Where are you thinking at the 210?
So, with this being a 3 wide receiver league, I'm going to put more emphasis this time on wide receiver than I did last time, which I don't even think I took one until maybe the 4th or 5th round. So I'm going to start here with 2 wide receivers. I'm going to go, and this guy could be a little controversial because we don't really know what's going on with him, but I am going to go Brandon Ayuk here. Just really consistent last year. Kind of took that step forward as like the number 1 guy there. I mean, obviously you still have Debo, but I think as far as like pure receiver, like route running, I think that Brandon Ayuk is better overall than Debo.
Yeah, I have seen it on X a lot lately, and about people kind of comparing Brandon Ayuk to Chris Olave. And if you look at the underlying metrics, Brandon Ayuk does have an edge over Chris Olave. The main thing is the uncertainty of what team he's going to go on. We keep seeing him linked to the Pittsburgh Steelers. We see him linked to the Washington Commanders. So we'll have to wait and see. I don't really know what's going to transpire right now. I personally think he's going to stay a 49er because I think they're going to end up moving on from Deebo Samuel. And Brandon Ayuk is going to be one of these guys that hopefully he doesn't go the way of Juju Smith-Schuster when the presumed number one wide receiver left town, and then it was all on him, and he just never lived up to expectations afterwards. I don't see that being the case because I think Brandon Ayuk is a better talent, but it's just one of those things that rattles back in the back of your mind. Like, it could happen. I mean, there's always a possibility that all these guys are either really good or really bad. Usually it's in between, but we'll see. Josh Jacobs goes next, and I'm here at the 212, and I have a few guys. Now, I'm looking at on the draft board, according to the ADP on Sleeper, they want me to take Josh Allen here. We have Josh Allen, Devon Achane, Travis Kelce, a lot of running backs at the top. And I have Christian McCaffrey. So this is something I don't typically do. But because it's a mock draft, I want to see what value I can get. Because I think that Devon Achane might have a good season. But Derrick Henry here, although he doesn't catch passes, should get a lot of touchdowns. I'm debating on going running back just to see how my team falls through, but kind of hurts. So I'm actually gonna pivot. I'm gonna go with Nico Collins. Being a 3 wide receiver league, and PPR, he's gonna get a ton of targets. I would love to try it, but it's hard for me not to go Nico Collins here because I do think a second year with CJ Stroud, this team is primed to explode. So I'm going to go with Nico Collins as my wide receiver 1. And just because I feel like it, I'm going to end up going with Josh Allen just because I never draft quarterbacks early. So I want to see how it plays out. I'm usually one of the guys that says wait late. We've talked a couple times that I've drafted quarterbacks a little bit later. I think the earliest I draft was like the 5th round when I end of the 5th round with Anthony Richardson. So we're going to see how this team shakes out, having the number 1 running back, a hopefully top 12 wide receiver, and consensus QB1. So following that was Devon Achane, and you're back up on the clock.
So I am in need of a running back. And I'm going to take a page out of your book here, and I'm going to go Derrick Henry. I was hoping you didn't take him because that's who I was eyeing up. But so I'm glad he fell to me. But I do agree that he's going to be a touchdown machine this year. He should get a decent amount of carries. Again, like you said, not really involved in the pass game a ton, but team likes to run the ball, so he should get plenty of carries.
Definitely. So there's a lot of guys recaps. I'm going to run through real quick, and we'll get to your pick while you pick your next guy. Mike Evans, Travis Kelce, Jalen Hurts at the 306, Isaiah Pacheco, Stephon Diggs, Deebo Samuel, DJ Moore, Lamar Jackson, Michael Pittman Jr., Rashad White, Cooper Kupp, Jalen Waddle, CJ Stroud, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Mixon, Malik Neighbors, James Cook, and DK Metcalf. You're up at the 410. Are you thinking tight end? Because there's 3 decent ones sitting right here.
I am thinking tight end here. And I think I'm going to go with the same guy I went with last video. The guy that you like. He's going to have, I think he's going to have a really good year. I'm going to go Trey McBride here again. Just lit it up with the last year. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's how you should feel picking Trey McBride this year. And if you don't, you're doing something wrong. But yeah, I love that pick. I really wish he was going to fall to me, but I took a quarterback, so I usually don't like to do back-to-back onesie positions. But either way, Mark Andrews went next, and I'm back up on the clock, and I see two guys here that I like, and one I might take a shot on because I've been coming around. So first, I'm going to make my selection here is going to be Devontae Smith of the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he's going to be in another position to show up in a big way for fantasy managers this season. If AJ Brown misses time, or even if he doesn't, he's still a dynamic threat on this offense. He is a different type of wide receiver, and I think that helps him. He can get open, he can make big plays, he can be used underneath. It's basically he can be used anywhere on the field. So that's someone I like tied to Jalen Hurts. I think it's a good position to be in. So Devontae Smith is the pick here. Now, this is a player. Now, if you followed the show for any period of time, you've heard me basically just poo-poo on this person, just because they cannot separate, they can't do a whole lot. But at the same time, I'm really looking at who is going to catch the ball on this team. So I'm going to select George Pickens because I think he's in a position where he should get a bunch of targets. Now, hopefully, what I think is going to be wrong, where he can't separate, hopefully he takes that step forward. I'm hoping it works. Better quarterback play, I think, is a major talking point on this team. I don't know if they're going to be how much better, but I do think they're going to be better. So George Pickens is in a position where he should be able to overcome any negative parts of his game, like the separation issue. So George Pickens is going to be my pick. So that makes 3 wide receivers that should get a decent amount of targets. One hopefully becomes a guy we're talking about that people are very excited and wins in drafts. So at the 5th round, we'll go with him. Followed by Zay Flowers, and you're up on the clock.
All right. I am also going to round out my 3 wide receivers here, and I'm going to go ahead and take a guy that should get a lot of targets. He has the past 2 years. I'm going to go with Amari Cooper here. So that rounds out my receivers with Cooper, Lamb, and Ayuk, which I think is pretty solid overall. And I'm really liking the way my team's turning out right now.
Yeah, you're going I mean, having 3 starting wide receivers of Lamb, Ayuk, and Cooper, that's a lot of targets. And then you have Derrick Henry, who hopefully has a bunch of touchdown upside. Trey McBride. I really like your team. I think it's a good one. I wish I had that team actually.
And okay, so run of players here: Kenneth Walker, Tank Dell, Kamara, Higgins. Then we had 3 tight ends go: Kincaid, Kittle, and Pitts. Connor, Burrow, Montgomery, Aaron Jones, Amir White, Keenan Allen, McLaurin, Romo Dunes, Christian Kirk, your guy A. Rich, and then DeAndre Swift. So I'm going to take my second running back here, a guy that I think is, I think I took him in the last video too, but I think he's getting a lot of carries. Just got extended for 4 years. So obviously they have something planned for him. I'm going to go with Ramondre Stevenson here to round up my running backs, my starting running backs. And Rashee Rice goes right after that.
Ramondre Stevenson in the 6th round is such a screaming value to me. Even if that offense, which I don't think a lot of people are expecting amazing things from the Patriots this season, having a rookie quarterback or Jacoby Brissett and a bunch of wide receivers, we don't know who's going to show up to be the one. He should be heavily utilized. So I really like Ramondre, and if you can get him in the 6th round as a starting running back, that's awesome. Rashee Rice scares me a little bit with the situation he's in, but I do think if he's suspended, he's going to come back and be fine. So it's just the way I try to draft. I don't want to sit with a guy on suspension for multiple weeks. If they're injured or just getting put on PUP, that I'm a little bit more okay with. as we've talked about in the past couple of shows as a strategy. So here I am looking at. I'm going to grab a tight end here who he's someone I selected a couple times before as someone that I believe should be safe for targets and ends a tier at tight end for me. So I'm going to grab Evan Ingram to start at the 6'12", and I'm going to take my shot on this player. We just had a sleepers episode where Rich said that he expects Will Levis to take a decent step forward in the second year, new offense and everything. So I'm going to reach a little bit because I want to see how this team looks with him. I'm going to reach for a guy who was just signed by the Tennessee Titans, who is going up against DeAndre Hopkins as the number one target on this team. And I'm going to select Calvin Ridley because I think this could be a year where I'm in the 7th round and I'm getting him. Last year, he was even higher. There was a lot of buzz and he let people down. But I do think that had part of it was that he didn't play for a year. Second part was that Jaguars offense just wasn't clicking for whatever reason. Tons and tons of pass attempts. He had so many end zone targets that he just couldn't come down with. Whether that's him or quarterback or any other situation, he had a ton of those targets. I'm expecting Will Levis to chuck it, and I think Calvin Ridley is going to be the biggest benefactor of that. We saw him chuck it to DeAndre Hopkins last year. I think Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins are in similar positions in their careers right now. Hopkins obviously is more proven, but I do think there's still stuff left in the tank for Calvin Ridley, so I'm going to select him here. Do you like that pick? Or because I know Ridley's one of those polarizing players where some people love him and some people just absolutely hate him. They don't want to touch him with a 10 football. So where do you slot in for Ridley?
Again, it's tough to tell because, again, it's a new team. You don't really know how he's going to slot in there. But I mean, getting him in the 7th round, I think is pretty decent value. So I don't mind that pick there. You do need a second running back.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm aware.
So might have gone with a running back there, but again, I'm looking at the list here, and I mean maybe Najee. I don't know. There's really not much here at this point, but I don't mind it.
Okay. All right. So Xavier Worthy went next, and you're up on the clock.
Okay. So I still need a quarterback, but I am targeting a guy that I think I can get with my next pick. So I'm going to pass on quarterback this time, and I'm going to go with a guy that had a pretty solid rookie year. Again, the quarterback situation's changed there, so we don't know exactly how that's going to look for him, but he obviously has the talent. He can get open. He can score. I'm going to go Jordan Addison here for my flex, and hopefully he can reproduce this, the same he did in his rookie year.
Yeah, I mean, 10 touchdowns as a rookie is nothing to scoff at. So I think he's someone that, especially in like dynasty communities, people don't know what to do with because Justin Jefferson just signed that massive contract, rookie quarterback, or Sam Darnold. We'll see which one ends up being better. But I think talent is going to be what overcomes in that situation. So he's got a lot of it. So I'm personally okay with just holding on to him. I think he's going to be good. This year might be a little bit rough to start, but we'll see. So where do you think of this next pick?
So I'm debating on going my quarterback here, but I'm also thinking maybe if I pass on him and take someone else, maybe he still falls to me with the next pick. It's just team 2 that I'm worried about because you already have yours. It's just is team 2 going to take him? And I'm a little scared, so I'm going to go ahead and take him. I'm going to take Brock Purdy here. I think that he's going to be just as good as he was last year.
Yeah, I like Purdy this year. And it's probably a good thing he did because team 2 did take a quarterback. So
yeah,
that was probably a good decision. Kyler Murray went right before you too. I would have I really like Kyler Murray this season, so he's one of the guys I'm targeting. So now I'm up here on the clock. I definitely need a running back. And man, does it kind of fall off a cliff at this point of the draft. But I have targets, so I think this is going to be just more. I need someone that's going to get me 8 to 12 points a game because CMC is going to be the guy that carries me. So I'm going to go with. I don't like drafting people on the same team typically, so I'm going to shy away from that. You know what? I'm going to go with Jonathan Brooks here. He's someone that I think I took in one of the last mock drafts. Is someone I think who might not start the season as the running back one for the team, but over time, I think he's going to take it over from Chuba Hubbard, and I think he's got a good talent. It just depends on the injury. How far along is he? You got to be patient with him. So I'll select him here as my second running back, or just because I have to get him here, or I won't get him. And I will grab another guy. He's on a really bad team. Actually, no. I was gonna go with Devin Singletary just because I think his volume is going to be safe. But there's another guy that I think is a screaming value here in the 9th round, and I'm going to grab Brian Robinson Jr. on the Commanders. I don't see that team being worse than they were last year, and I don't see anyone taking away. I know Austin Eckler's there; he's presumed the RB1 of the team, but after last season, I don't know how confident we are in Austin Eckler for fantasy. For NFL, he's probably still fine, but for fantasy, I'm not willing to take that shot. So I'm going to grab Brian Robinson, who should play the first and second down at minimum. He might end up doing a little bit more because he also can catch the ball. So I think this offense is going to be a lot better because they will have a rushing threat at the quarterback position in Jaden Daniels. So Brian Robinson Jr., welcome to my roster.
All right, I like it. D-Hop goes right after that. I have a question for you.
Shoot.
What are your thoughts on Jameson Williams this year?
Jameson Williams is a fantasy enigma because talent-wise, I think he has it. But it's really hard because he's had opportunity and he's flashed, but he's also had some blunders. So on that offense, I don't really know where he fits in. And if you listen to the coach speak, if you listen to Dan Campbell talk about him, he always says, "Oh, he's going to be a part of the offense, and he just needs to do this, that, and the other thing." And they don't speak about him as highly as some of these other guys. So I don't know if that's just more kind of conjecture or if that's actually true. So I know you have him in our dynasty league. Where do you? Obviously,
well, yeah,
it's kind of up in the air.
Yeah, to be honest, like the first few games out of him that I saw, like obviously I wasn't very pleased with what I saw because again, like when he did play, there were a lot of like fumbles or not fumbles, just a lot of miscues, a lot of drop passes, stuff like that. But it seemed like towards the end of the season, he really started to, find his groove, find his place in the offense. And from what I've been hearing, like you said, this offseason, I've been hearing reports that he's going to come into the season as the wide receiver 2 behind Amon-Ra, which I think if that's the case, I think that'll be really good for him and his production. It's just, I don't think he had a lot of time to practice like before the season, obviously with his injury. So,
and then he also had the betting thing too. So
yeah, the betting
kept
thing
him off the field. I'm nervous, and this might scare people. So I apologize if you're easily skittish. Plug your ears. But he kind of reminds me of Gabe Davis a little bit, where he's a good wide receiver when he is, but there's a lot of times where he does a little bit of a disappearing act, I guess you would say. So he can make big plays, but it's kind of few and far between. So Do you get that kind of vibe, or is that too far?
No, I think that he's going to be better than what most people think this year, but I also see your point of view on it, where it's just it hasn't been there as of so far. So, but I was just curious. I saw him on the board here, and I'm like, kind of considering it. But
Yeah,
I do need a third
for
running back here, which that's what I'm going to go. And I'm going to go a guy that you said I think is going to get a lot of volume as well, Devin Singletary. Was pretty good for Houston last year, so
yeah,
maybe he can really produce that. I don't know. We'll see.
yeah. The Giants scare the bejesus out of me. So I don't know what to really expect. And the Hard Knocks stuff, I don't know if you've been following that at all, but it's been entertaining, but it's been a little scary as a Giants fan. So I hear you're back up at the 10-10.
All right. Let's see what we have here. So looking at who's available. We're starting to really get down to like the nitty gritty here. But I am going to go. I kind of just talked myself out of it.
That's what I did before. So no worries. It's crazy how sometimes you feel like you're in such a like, oh, I'm gonna perfect. He's still here. I'm gonna grab him. And then you look down. It's like, do I want him or do I want this other guy? No, forget the first idea.
Like honestly, at this position I'm at, like I don't want to take a second quarterback, but if Brock Purdy for whatever reason doesn't work out, or if he's not as good as he was last year, I'm gonna go ahead and take Jared Goff here. Just kind of insurance, just in case.
It's not. I mean, Jared Goff, I think, is going to be another value at quarterback. It seems like the past couple of years he's always been decent. He's probably not going to win you the league, but he's also probably not going to lose it for you. So I think I like that pick. So Adonai Mitchell goes next, and I'm here at the 10-12 at the turn. I'd like another wide receiver. I'm looking the wide receivers on the left on the board right now, according to ADP: Romeo Doubs, Curtis Samuel, Tyler Lockett, and Khalil Shakir. I think I'm going to go Shakir, not only because I think he's probably the best out of that group of wide receivers, but I also have Josh Allen, so it would be nice to get the stack. And I think that Khalil Shakir will end up being the wide receiver one on this team. I know Keon Coleman has been getting buzz, but I still think they're going to want someone that has been in this offense already to take the step forward. And I think that's going to be Khalil Shakir. So I'm going to grab him there. And now probably am going to grab a running back just because at this point I have Christian McCaffrey, who in the past has dealt with injuries. So although I think he's going to be a tremendous value, not value, sorry. Words hard. Tremendous pick in fantasy, but having Jonathan Brooks and Brian Robinson as the only other two guys, probably not the smartest thing to do. So I'm going to grab a guy who I think is going to get volume, was not someone that did a whole heck of a lot last year, but he was still serviceable. And I'm going to grab Jerome Ford. I think he is going to start the year as the RB1 of that team because I expect Nick Chubb to sit for at least 6 games on PUP. And then it depends on how much they ease him back in the offense. It could be just Jerome Ford's backfield. So he's probably another guy, not going to win you the league potentially, but someone that's going to be steady. You're getting at least 10 points out of him every week. So at this point in the draft, I'll take that. So Jerome Ford is the pick, followed by Justin Herbert, and you're back up.
All right. I am looking at either running back or receiver here. And I think I'm going to go with a guy who has a history with injuries. But when he's in there, he's really good. I'm going to go with Mike Williams. Kind of a risky pick, but again, when he's in there, he's a monster. And I think him being paired with Aaron Rodgers is a pretty good fit.
Yeah, he's another one that's going to be interesting to see. 'Cause I doubt he plays in preseason too much, just because he's made of glass, it seems. So they don't want to go too crazy. And I doubt Aaron Rodgers is going to play in preseason as well. So, all right. So you're back up on the clock here. We had a couple quarterbacks and tight end run to go.
Whew, not a lot left here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the handcuff to Ramondre Stevenson. I'm going to go Antonio Gibson here. Just in case, something happens to Ramondre, I have Gibson, and I'm sure he's going to get at least some production.
Yeah, I agree.
He's too good of a talent to not play. So,
yeah, definitely. All right, so then Kendra Miller went, and I'm back up on the clock, and I have a guy here. So my last two picks here are going to be players that I think I'm going to shoot for some upside here. First pick is going to be Rico Dowdle, who I just talked about on our sleeper episode. I know the audio on my end was a little bit weird, so I know it might be a little difficult to hear sometimes, but definitely take a look at that episode. The guys had a couple good picks for sleepers this season. Rico Dowdle, plain and simple, good offense, projects to be high scoring offense. So I'm going to tie my running back to someone of that team and potential upside. So Rico Dowdle's the first pick. And now I have to make a decision on who the last wide receiver is going to be. Not great, Bob, but I'm going to pick a guy who got paid a bunch of money this season by actually, no, I forgot I have Evan Engram, so let's not do that. I'm going to go with a guy here who I expect to be the wide receiver one on the New England Patriots, and I'm going to go with Jalen Polk. I'm going to take the shot at the rookie in a crowded wide receiver room to rise to the top. So that is my last selection. What is your last pick?
I'm going to go with the guy that I think you were going to take, and that's going to be Gabe Davis.
Yeah, that's who I was going to go with. But then I forgot I have Evan Engram, and that would not be smart. All righty. So why don't you run down your team and let me know, scale of 1 to 10, how confident you are in that team?
Sure. Quarterback, I have Brock Purdy. Starting running backs, we have Derrick Henry and Ramondre Stevenson. Starting receivers, we have CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk, and Amari Cooper. Starting tight end is Trey McBride, and my starting flex is Jordan Addison. On the bench, we have Devin Singletary and Antonio Gibson as my backup running backs. Mike Williams and Gabe Davis as my backup receivers. And we have Jared Goff in case Brock Purdy is not as good this year. I'm really loving this team, I'll be honest with you. I'll give it like a 9.
Yeah, I think you have probably the best team here. Starting with Lamb, Ayuk, and like your first 5 picks, I think, or 6 picks are just absolute studs, and I think it's going to be really, really good. I wish I had that team. You want to switch? But
not this time. Maybe next time.
Yeah. For my team, I have Josh Allen at quarterback, Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Brooks, Nico Collins, Devonta Smith, George Pickens. Tight end is Evan Engram. My flex is Calvin Ridley. And then on the bench is Brian Robinson Jr., Khalil Shakir, Jerome Ford, Rico Dowdle, and Jalen Polk. So most likely Jonathan Brooks is not going to start the season, so I'll probably have Jerome Ford in there or Rico Dowdle. Not sure yet. But overall, I would give this team probably about a 6 to 7. I don't really like how it turned out. I think there were a couple picks. I wish I didn't go Josh Allen. That's the main thing. just because of how it thins out at all the other positions really quick, I think it's smarter to go with a guy like a Jared Goff or Brock Purdy, Kyler Murray, who are going 6 rounds later, and I can get some of these other guys ahead of him. So
yeah, taking
that's
a quarterback.
the thing.
Yeah, taking a quarterback in the 3rd round when you have the first pick is because there's so many picks in between. You lose out on a lot of position players, so it's a risk.
Yeah, especially at the turn. Like I think I'd be a little bit more okay with it. Like in the position, was that team 6 where they grab Jalen Hurts in the middle of the round? I think that might be a better strategy. Don't get the first guy, but maybe you could aim for the 2nd or 3rd potentially at the quarterback position at least. And overall, I mean, I don't think it's terrible. I mean, having Josh Allen, who everyone expects to be the quarterback 1 with rushing on that offense, and then Christian McCaffrey, those aren't bad players to have. I just think my team is a little bit more top heavy than what I typically like to start with. I like to have a little bit more balance, and this, because picking at the turn at the front, you got to either do what everyone else is doing or start, and that's something I don't like to do. But it's a strategy, and I'm glad we went through it, because I think that's something you're going to be in the position of potentially at the 101, the 103. Like in a PPR league, I like the way your draft turned out. So if you're in a PPR league, if you can pick your slot, go for that, early middle. I think that might be a good position for you. So, but that's going to do it for us. Thanks again for tuning in. As always, please like, share, and subscribe. You can really help us out here, and leave us a review. If you leave a question, we will read it on the show. I promise you that. Definitely helps us out in a big, big way. We want to come out here with more content for everybody, because there's a lot of things to talk about. There's a lot of football left to be decided on, a lot of questions. So we're all here for that. So please let us know what you have. And that's going to do it. And we'll talk to everyone later. So long, everyone.
See you guys.
Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. Follow us on Twitter at TheHeroesFF.